Click to Learn More, the show that sounds like clickbait,
but it's actually two dorks.
I'm Lidi.
I'm Dorm.
And today, we're going to talk about something really super adorable.
Me.
We're going to talk about Dorm.
Me.
Just kidding. We're going to talk about water bears.
What's up? Is that when, like, a grizzly gets in a creek?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But also no.
Oh.
So, a water bear, or a tardigrade.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The thing from Doctor Who. That he gets in. Bigger on the inside, the tardigrade.
Mm-hmm. That is what it's called.
And it's like a phone booth.
Mm-hmm.
The tardigrade.
What else do you... Yeah, where else can you go with this?
It's blue.
And it's...
large on the inside.
Okay, all right. Well, a tardigrade is also called a water bear, which we talked about.
Yeah.
Or a moss piglet.
What?
Is that not precious?
Okay, that's pretty cute.
Isn't that cute? Okay, so I told you, I was like, there's another name that
Yeah.
water bears are, but I'm not going to tell you because it's super cute, and I'll tell you when we record the podcast. Moss piglet.
That's what they call me in high school.
Okay, well, end of podcast.
Bye!
Podcast over. So, tardigrada is their name. Yeah. So
I thought that was a plural.
It means slow stepper. So they move.
They call me slow stepper. Murderer.
They move quite slowly. So the name comes from the way they walk, or the way they move.
Oh, like tarda as in slow?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So they move quite slowly. So the movement is reminiscent of a bear's gait. So like a bear kind of like ambles and kind of like is a little bit slower of an animal until they start chasing you. Don't climb a tree; they'll follow you.
Mm.
Friendly facts.
What do you do with a bear?
You play dead, and you pee yourself, and you pray.
All things I would probably do anyway. I don't think I needed your
Yeah,
tips
I don't.
for that.
Yeah, that kind of comes naturally,
I
right?
would just panic and just automatically pee.
Yeah, there's no part of me that looks at a bear and it's like, I think you'll be cool with me.
Yeah, we're good.
I think we'll be buds.
We're good.
No, it's instant pee dead. Like, I might die of a heart attack before that happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, so from what we know, water bears have 4 pairs of legs.
Can we talk about Can we talk about scale for those of you who
They're
don't know?
microscopic.
They're very small.
They're teeny tiny microorganisms. They're microscopic. So they're little bitty babies. So
they have 4 legs. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure
you're
that
fine.
was out there.
They have 4 pairs of legs. So they have 8 legs.
Ah,
well,
octobears.
Each with 4 to 8 claws, known as discs.
Spider bears.
You called it octobear. I just heard that. With spider bears. So they have a complicated feeding apparatus, which we're going to talk about later. Remember the GIF that we talked about when it's like,
yes.
It's just like.
I'll try to find it for the video. But there's a pot.
Can you have a little like tardigrade like swimming across the stream, and I just like hold it because I love it so much.
That's a pain for me to edit. Thanks for that. No, but it's like it like moves its whole. I just try to do it with my mouth. It moves its whole like being out and then in.
So its mouth actually comes out of its face and then back into its face. It's a really trippy looking thing. If you've never seen a water bear, go look it up. They're really cute in a really weird way. He's not gonna agree, but they're really cute in a really weird way. Up till recording this, I've been sending him gifs and pictures and videos and been like, look how cute they are, and he's been like,
bombarded.
Why do you think this is a cute thing? Why is this cute to you?
It's so it's so microscopic.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Okay, explain to me what you mean by everywhere.
We're gonna get into that.
Okay, all right. Didn't mean to
worry.
derail.
They're everywhere. So they might be on you right now. I know. There's one. So, so new species are being discovered all the time.
Okay.
So we don't even know really how many species of water bears exist right now.
So, a water bear is the
umbrella term, yeah. So like we call them water bears, but then they have like different kinds of water bears within the umbrella.
There's like grizzly water bear and polar water bear.
And there's and there's a black water bear, and then there's like a
panda water. What?
Yeah.
Panda water bear.
Yes. So water bears or tardigrades or tardigrada are that's the umbrella of it, and then they fall within. So they're being discovered pretty much like all the time. Like a new one just got discovered in Japan in a parking lot. So like they're getting discovered all the time, and there's over 1,000.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's really strange. So there's over 1,000 species of them that we know of currently.
Okay.
So there's a ton of them.
It's a lot.
Yeah, so that we don't even know about. So we think that we know that there's at least 1,000. We think that perhaps there's at least 10 times as many out there.
This is sort of the undiscovered species in the rainforest scenario.
Right, like in the ocean, the depths of the ocean, like we don't know.
Yeah.
But based on how rapidly we're finding out new ones and just in everyday life, we can kind of assume that there's a lot more out there.
So explain something to me.
Yeah.
They're so small.
Mm-hmm.
How do you differentiate species?
So some of them lay eggs. Some of them reproduce asexually.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, some reproduce sexually.
But they're all the same group of things.
But they're so they're considered the same. It's really strange. We're gonna get into this. Yeah. They're a little buck wild.
I'm gonna say this. I'm having a hard time, and it's just because the limits of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Having a hard time conceptualizing a microscopic thing reproducing via an egg. I don't know why.
It's really weird. So some of them, there were some that were just discovered that have like spaghetti-like tendrils on their eggs, and then some of them have these really pretty kind of like geometric shaped eggs. It's weird. Like there's so many different kinds of them, and they really kind of have a point, but also kind of don't have a point.
Right.
They're strange, but we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
All right. Like I said, a newfound species was just discovered with eggs that have tendrils on them, and they were found in a parking lot of an apartment building in Japan.
That's wild
So they were just discovered recently, very recently.
You don't think of biological discoveries happening in parking lots.
In parking lots, yeah. But tardigrades are everywhere, and they're really cute, and I know you don't think they are, but they're really cute. Look them up if you haven't already.
Okay, can I ask you, what makes them cute?
I think
Is it just their size?
Okay.
The tiny little guys?
I think it helps that they're tiny little guys, but I like how they're kind of like clumsy, and they kind of flop a little bit, and they got like little squishy pillow bodies.
Okay.
And they got like little claws. I think they're cute. And they got those weird like little spongy noses.
See, that's the part I can't latch onto as cute.
Well, they'll latch onto you.
Oh.
I think they're cute.
Okay. I just wanted to
how they kind of wiggle around, and they look like if you squeezed them, they go ew. Like, I think that's cute.
They do. That's
they do. They look like if you squeezed them, they would squeak. And
they
I think
like
that's
moving squishy toys.
And I think that's real.
Toys.
Real precious. I think that's real cute. So, they've been known to exist in a variety of colors as well, which I thought was interesting because normally a microscopic item or organism is kind of see-through-ish. Like, it doesn't really have its own color.
It's like the beginning of Spore.
Right. It's kind of just like a little thing that exists, and it doesn't really have any shape or form to it.
Right.
But they've ranged from red to yellow, green to orange, and even purple.
So all the colors.
Yeah, they've been a variety of colors, which is kind of strange, I think, because when I think of an organism that I'm looking at under a microscope, it's something that I looked at in biology lab, right? Like, it's something that you can see through. Yeah. And you can see like little speckles in it, and that's it. Right. Like, you can't tell one from the other. You can't tell what it is. Like, that's kind of the vibe I get. But these, apparently, you can see them like moving with their little legs and stuff. So, I know. See, you said that's cute.
And it is
You
cute.
made a cute noise.
It's cute that they're little mover guys.
So, I have in my notes that they look like squishy pillows with a lot of legs and a terrifyingly adorable face.
That's what they said about me in high school. Second time I made that joke. I don't know how many times I'm going to use it on this one episode.
At least 2 more, I think.
Probably.
I'm gonna count at least 2 more.
Is that the over-under? Okay.
At least 2 more. They can move their heads independent of their bodies.
Oh, like us.
I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they would even need to do that. That a microscopic organism would need to.
Do they have eyes?
Some species.
That's so weird to me.
I know. So some species have eyes.
Okay.
Some do not, and they can like stare back at you as you look at them through the microscope.
I will fully admit I have no. Like, I didn't even take biology in college. I took it in high school. But, like, the idea of different species having such vast differences
is a
little wild to me.
Yeah, and with these organisms that we don't really know a lot about, like, we don't really know a lot about them. We know that they're pretty much indestructible. Like, that seems to be their thing. But we don't really know what their purpose is. So, like...
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, a lot of things have a purpose, right? Like, they eat plant matter or they eat organic matter. or well, that's the same thing. They eat, little animals, or they eat little plants, or they fertilize things, or they're diatoms, or whatever. Like, they exist in some form.
What was that word you just used?
We'll talk about diatoms in a later episode.
Oh my goodness.
So they exist in some form. Can
I just know what a diatom is, though?
So diatoms are... They're really interesting things. They're in your toothpaste. Diatoms are actually in toothpaste. They help with the scrubbing portion of...
Okay, so like pumice and stuff? I know there's like little trace elements of pumice in...
So diatoms can be like little tiny pieces of like sand and little tiny pieces of debris and stuff like that.
Okay.
That is as far as my knowledge goes. Okay, gotcha. Because I know what diatoms are, and then that's where my knowledge ends, because I think they're super interesting. And also, I played everything recently, and they were like in that.
I was going to ask, is that what a diatom is?
So when I saw them, I was like, I'm adding that to my notes because they're super cool, and I want to talk more about them.
Gotcha.
Well, okay, so we talked about them moving their heads independent of their body. They're considered to be close relatives of arthropods, which are insects, crustaceans, or nematodes. Nematodes are things. Yeah, they're actual things. I didn't realize. Okay, do you remember Doug, the cartoon?
Yeah.
They talked about nematodes, and he had to go catch a nematode.
I knew I recognized that for some reason.
He went around the pond and was like, nematodes, and like did his little thing.
Yeah.
Nematodes are microscopic, so he couldn't have seen them anyway, but they are a thing.
Dumb Doug.
I know. Doug, stop it.
Come on,
Quail
Doug.
Man wearing his one around the outside.
Come on.
Who does that?
Named your dog Pork Chop.
That's a cute name.
It is a good name for a dog.
But nematodes are a thing. They're just like multicellular microscopic organisms.
They're toads who are big fans of Finding Nemo.
Yeah, that's what they are. Help me. Let's see. So they can grow to be up to 1 millimeter in length, which may not seem like a lot, but is visible under a microscope.
Okay.
So, like, just your basic standard microscope. Yeah. Not, like, super zoomed in. Not electron microscope. You can see them through just, like, a normal microscope.
The most basic microscope.
Mm-hmm. So
Chemistry lab microscope.
Right, yeah. So they said that a good way to see them is to take a piece of moss from, like, a foresty area and soak it in water. Distilled or rainwater is best.
Okay.
And then squeeze out the water and then look in the water. And you'll be able to see them floating around.
That's really interesting.
So the reason that you need water will be revealed later. Don't worry.
So many teasers.
I know. So many teasers for this episode for cute little water bears. Water bears. There's your clue. There's your
and
clue.
Moss piglets.
There's your clue. And moss piglets. See, yeah, they live in moss. They live in all kinds of areas, though. They're kind of wild. Hence them being a little bit indestructible. They are old. Very old. Older than me, even.
That's saying something.
That's saying something. They don't fossilize easy since their bodies are kind of squishy and little.
Wow, I don't think of microscopic things fossilizing at all.
Weird, right? So they don't fossilize since their bodies are kind of squishy, and the oldest known fossils are believed to be from 500 million years ago. So they've been around for what scientists believe to be 500 million years ago.
So how old is one? Like if I were to find like, oh, that's my guy. How old's he? On average,
any age.
Any age.
Any age, because they're
indestructible, right?
Right, so they can last for years. They can, in a certain state. So they have different states that they exist in.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm interested. What?
See, this is why they're interesting, because when they're in their squishy little form, they can be killed pretty easily. But they have another state they can be in the same way that water can be gas or it can be a solid in ice. Yeah. Water has different states. Water bears also have different states. They can't be gas. I mean, they might be able to get gas. I don't know. They eat a lot of plant and animal matter.
Little toots.
Could you imagine their little tiny, their little tiny toots? That's what propels them through the water. We're making fart humor now. That's where our podcast has gone. So they're the first known animal to survive in space.
So they are an animal.
They are an animal. They are classified as an animal. And they're the first known animal to be able to survive in space. In the vacuum of space.
Fair play.
Which is kind of wild to think about.
Because
you don't have like little tiny like helmets for them. Little tiny space suits.
Imagine just like a little like...
Little tiny tiny helmet,
like little bubble wrap.
Yeah, yeah, little tiny like legs on the suit that sticks out. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for the tardigrade. You know, like they don't have that.
Scale wise, it's a very good joke.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
It
is one large leap
for
a tardigrade. One small step for man is
be quite a distance for a little.
They're like a millimeter.
Little water bear.
They're pretty small. They're they're usually covered with a cuticle, which contains chitin, proteins, and lipids. Lipids are fats.
Yes. And
also they molt. So they'll shed their skin.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So they're covered in chitin, which is the same thing that's like our fingernails, right?
Which is the same thing as like scorpions.
Yes.
They're covered in chitin.
So they're little hard boys.
They can have little shells on them. Yeah. That goes back to the states. They can have different states that they're in, and one of those is that they can be like...
They can use harden.
They can use harden. Wow. I didn't know if anyone was going to be able to out-nerd me this episode. This guy right here. Just out-nerded me. They ate by puncturing algae and other organisms with a mouth part called a stylet, which is that little, like, bloop, bloop thing that they have, and they suck out the nutrients from it. So it's like a little straw.
Like a little mosquito.
Yeah, so they puncture it, and then they suck it dry, essentially. The stylets are lost when they molt. So when they shed their skin, they lose their stylet, they lose their mouth, and a new pair is secreted from a pair of glands that lie on either side of the mouth.
What?
The water bear's mouth can telescope outward to reveal sharp teeth that are used to grab onto food. So that part that telescopes outward has little sharp teeth in it, and it punctures into, and they eat a lot of like plant matter. Okay. So like they puncture plant cell walls. Remember the plant cell that you had to study in like 7th grade in high school? It was that high school? Middle school?
Middle school, 7th grade.
I don't remember. It's been so long ago. In 7th grade, when they puncture the plant wall, and they'll eat the chlorophyll and the mitochondria and the powerhouse of the cell. So they'll suck out all the nutrients.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to have to relearn biology again.
From all the cells. That's how they eat. That's what they subsist on. They're kind of cool in that way, that they have this little style. But when they molt, when they shed that skin, they lose it.
Like a bee loses its little stinger.
Right, and it's this weird moment where they have to like grow it back through glands on the sides of their faces, which is strange.
Could you imagine if that were the case for like humans? Like once a year we just kind of lose our teeth and just have to kind of like...
Oof. Just peel your skin off and like grow your teeth back out of your body. You started this. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
know what... Yeah, you start...
That was my bad.
You can't be upset when you started this. Some of them have tubular glands.
Tubular?
That are associated with the rectum.
Oh. I said tubular, but it was about a butthole.
I shut your joke down real quick. They're pretty cowardly. Do you know how I know this?
Because they're tiny?
Because they don't have backbones.
Oh.
Waka waka.
All right, guys, it's been a good episode. I'm going to leave now.
They're invertebrates, which means they don't have backbones.
I remember this one.
They don't have backbones.
Invertebrate, fun word to spell.
They do, however, have a brain. Which I think is really interesting for such a small organism to have an actual working brain.
It is really... I'm going to say this multiple times this episode. Conceptualizing something that is the size of a millimeter.
Yes.
At largest.
With a brain.
Having a brain.
Yeah.
Buck wild.
It's...
I don't get it.
It's a little weird.
I have the same problem. This is the same problem I have conceptualizing space. On such a large scale.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm having the same problem scaling down.
That's fair.
I'm a very narrow-minded, scale-wise person.
That's fair. It's hard to think of something so tiny having so many complex parts.
Right.
That's really strange.
Yeah.
To think of this tiny millimeter length organism.
Oh boy.
Being able to move its head independently of its body, move its legs, have a purpose as far as like mate and survive, because it has a sense of self-preservation.
Wait a minute. You said mate.
Some of them mate.
Do they bone down?
Some of them bone down.
What does that look like?
You're gonna find it. Well, you won't find out what it looks like, but I'll tell you about it.
Do they have genitals?
We're gonna learn.
Okay.
So some of them bone down, and
good.
And it's weird to think of them having brains.
It is.
Like that's weird. They're little bitty guys, but some of them have brains. That's odd.
It's weird to even think of like something like an insect having a brain. I know they do, but like
All I know is I smush them.
Like, can you imagine, like, an ant's brain? It's tiny.
Do ants have brains?
I don't know.
You said, like, an ant's brain? I thought you knew.
I'm just conceptualizing.
It sounded good.
I assume ants have brains. Maybe they don't.
Maybe they do.
Are there living...
God, can you imagine what an ant thinks?
Are there animals who don't have brains?
Yeah.
Like what?
An ant.
Okay.
I really don't know. That's a good topic. That would be good to learn more about.
Which animals have brains?
Which animals have brains?
It's 3 hours long of just like aardvark.
We just name
antelope.
it. Which ones do have brains? Yeah. We just name them all off.
That's a good goof because aardvark probably would be the first one.
It would be. Good job. You did it. I'm very proud of you. So, getting back to tardigrades. Like regular bears, they have claws.
Like regular?
Well, they're water bears, right? So, like regular bears, they have claws.
A bear's ever been called a regular bear?
Like normal bears.
Like those normie bears.
Like those normie bears y'all know about. They have claws, which aid in their locomotion. So,
okay.
Not like in the train sense, but in the like movement sense. So, they do this cute little like pulling themselves forward. Yeah. They do this cute little like pulling themselves forward things. Unlike regular bears, they don't wear tiny red shirts and eat out of pots of honey.
Is this where I put in the picture of me as Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah, okay, yes.
Okay.
And they probably can't catch a whole salmon in their mouths with one swipe.
Probably not.
They probably can't do that.
Probably not going to work.
Right?
Did you write those jokes into your notes?
Yeah. And then there's all the legs. And then there's and then they hop all the legs, right? Which is not the same as a normal bear.
God, could you imagine a bear with 8 legs though?
Stop.
It's a sci-fi. It's a bad sci-fi, like sci-fi channel movie.
Spider bears.
Spider bear. Octo bear.
Octo bear tornado. Tornado bear.
Bear octo.
Bear NATO. Octo bear NATO.
You're welcome, Ian Ziering. We just got you 4 more movies.
We did it, and also Tara Reid. God, rip.
She was in the, she was in that JC Chazé video.
Blowing me up with disappointment. So where do they live? Pretty much wherever they want. I didn't even give you a chance.
I love that you had a hypothetical. So where do they live? Well, they actually live where...
I'm not even going to give you a chance. Because guess what? They live wherever they want. They don't need your permission.
Okay, yeah.
They don't need your okays.
They're independent creatures. I almost said independent, so that's fun.
You did. They live wherever they please. They can survive pretty much anywhere, too. Which is really super cool. Because they can be in forests.
Okay.
In damp moss. They can prance around on flowering plants and fields. They can be kind of like rolling around in sand in the deserts.
What is the name... And sorry for springing this on you. What is the name of like the creatures that can survive in like really hot and really cold climates? They're like microscopic. This is what these are reminding me of.
I don't know.
Like they survive. I'll look it up. Go ahead.
Water bears is what they're called. They're called tardigrades.
Yes.
And you can even find them flopping around in freshwater, like puddles and stuff like that, and even under the sea.
Under the sea.
Now, granted, there's a lot of weird stuff under the sea that we don't know about. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the deep sea that we don't really know.
That's true.
What it is.
Very dark down there.
It is, and it's very scary. They even live in the Antarctic. In some places that are only water bears and lichen, which is like a slow-growing plant. It's like leaf-like in appearance, kind of crusty leaf-like in appearance, and it's a really strange-looking creature. It's plant, but still. So those two things live there. So that's wild to me that these creatures can exist in a place where nothing else exists.
They're just called extremophiles.
Extremophiles. Okay, so
I should have remembered.
So that came up in my research actually, and one scientist said that these are not considered extremophiles, and then someone else said yes, they are considered. So there was some like topic. Yes, they were butting heads against like were these extremophiles, were these not extremophiles?
Gotcha.
And some camps said yes, and some camps said no. So I left them out because it was not a definitive answer either way. So I just left them out because I was like, I don't really have enough clout either way to determine if they are or not. But they are on every continent and in every climate.
That's awesome.
So they're literally they will outlive people. World. They will outlive people.
Well, that's sad.
They will. They will if there today was a meteor that killed all life on the planet, they would still exist.
Actually, that's kind of cool.
They would still live.
Good job, water bears.
They're usually like
the Twinkies of the animal world.
If there's a volcano that erupts, one of the first living organisms to come back.
Like resurface?
Is the water bear.
That's interesting.
It's one of the first ones to come back because they feed on the plant and the animal. Yeah, essentially. They feed on the plant and animal cells that are left behind. So they're one of the first things that come back and kind of start the ecosystem over again.
Yeah.
So we kind of need them. It's this really weird like push-pull kind of thing with water bears where we're not really sure what they're for.
Okay.
And then at the same time, they're super cool. And we only have learned about them recently.
How recently?
Within the last few years, to the point where like people are talking about them in excess.
Gotcha.
Like talking about how
they're a known quantity.
To the point where now we're talking about using them in scientific experiments to maybe like help humans like live longer.
Oh, cool.
And become stronger and stuff
we need
like
our
that.
own layer of chitin.
Right. We need to put a chitin shield on our own bodies.
That'll do it.
Human scorpions. That's terrifying. So in my notes I have what makes them interesting. Just wait. They have an incredible resistance to just about everything. So
They're hard boys.
They are hard boys. They can be boiled.
What?
Boiled. Frozen.
These are just descriptions of foods.
Introduced to radiation.
Not that one.
And even tossed into the vacuum of space and survive.
I thought you were going to say vacuum, and I was equally impressed by both.
They can live in a vacuum.
I can live in a vacuum.
So the lifespan of tardigrades range from 3 to 4 months for some species, up to 2 years for others, which is not counting the time they spend in dormant states.
Okay.
So that's where we kind of get into this other...
How long are they normally dormant for?
That varies, depending on the situation around them.
Gotcha.
Depending on their environment. So they only go dormant if they don't have enough moisture to keep them in their squishy little state.
Got it.
This is really cool. They bone down in a number of interesting ways. It literally says in my notes, they bone down in a number of ways. So scientists call these reproductive strategies. Okay, it's boning down.
They're clowning.
Yeah, they're down to clown. So some species lay pretty interesting eggs. Anywhere from 1 to 30 at a time.
30?
30, right. Little tiny, yeah, just popping them out. Little ping pong balls. Little tiny guy.
That's a visual.
Just popping these out. Some are born by way of asexual reproduction. And that's common in some invertebrates. So some invertebrates, it's just like, it's normal to be born from asexual reproduction.
Yeah.
And some are hermaphrodites, which means that they can act as either the, quote, male or, quote, female for sexual reproduction. So if they come across another tardigrade that is male at the time, they can switch to female and have a sexual reproduction. And
they're sort of a catch-all tardigrade.
So also, I think clams do this as well. Clams can switch, and some snails can switch. So it, like also invertebrates. So a lot of different invertebrates can do this.
That's interesting.
It's weird, right? So during sexual reproduction, the female lays eggs, and the male will fertilize them. So they never actually interact. So she will lay her eggs. It's kind of like fish. Yeah. So kind of like how fish do. Like, she lays the eggs and then he...
That's how fish do.
That's how fish do. That's how fish do the deed. So, during sexual reproduction, the females lay the eggs and the males fertilize them. Asexual reproduction, the female will lay the eggs and then they'll develop without fertilization. So, they'll just develop on their own. They don't need no man. They're strong, independent water bear ladies. I don't know if they're ladies. Water bear organisms. Water bears.
Yeah.
And they don't need no
you said
sperm.
Like, why so serious?
Why so serious?
Like,
so the problem for most microscopic animals is that they need to be in water in order to survive. Oh. Also, they're too small. They get squished. Yeah. They get stepped on all the time.
No one will ever know about them.
No one ever knows, and
they're
then
not
they get
famous.
squished.
Not a lot of acting opportunities as a water bear.
They get looked over at casting calls. If they're not
I'm here to audition.
I'm here. If they're not in water, they dry out and then they die.
Same.
So same. Water, Sandy.
Did you just make a SpongeBob
That's a SpongeBob
reference?
joke. Yeah. They can even evaporate away if they don't have
what?
Yeah. So if they
that's really sad.
I know. Can you imagine? It's just like
Dave, no.
It crawls up to the surface.
Dave's dissipating,
and it's his best friend that he's had his whole life.
No, Dave.
And it just floats away on the breeze.
Dave.
RIP. Dave, the water bear.
Dave 2018.
Dave 2018 to 2018. The start of the podcast to the end of the podcast. So, with a name like Water Bear, you would think that they would need water to survive.
They'd
or
be
at least
cool college mascot.
Yes. Or it is involved in some part of their lives that they have Water Bear in their name. So, they require that good H2O. That H2O, though. That H2O, though, to do their thing.
That HHO.
When they're removed from water, they go into the state where they're protective of themselves, and they tuck their legs in, and they tuck their little head in, and they turn into a pill-like shaped that is called a ton. T-U-N.
They're little roly boys.
They're like a little roly-poly. Yeah. Yeah. When they're in this state...
Or an armadillo.
An armadillo. They produce what is basically antifreeze. So
what?
They produce glycerin.
Okay.
When they're in this state.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the nitro variety.
Exactly. And they secrete a simple sugar that helps preserve them in this form. So it serves as a source of energy for a variety of bacteria, fungi, plants, and invertebrate animals. So other invertebrates use the same kind of simple sugar. And it helps them survive freezing.
Okay.
And it helps them survive a lack of water.
It's almost like a preservative kind of thing.
Yes. So it keeps them alive during this state of kind of like being motionless. It's also in nutrition bars and chewing gum. The same sugar, the same preservative. It's the same.
Is that our only source of it, or is there other?
There are other ones. There was some that was used in eye drops. In my research, there was a couple that were used in eye drops, and I think that was to keep them from drying out.
Gotcha. Sorry, are water bears our only source of this sugar?
No.
Okay.
So we can get it in other places. They develop it. Yeah, it's the same variety of it.
Gotcha.
So not all water bears secrete the sugar.
Of course.
Right. So like
hashtag not all water bears.
Not all water bears. So some of them do and some of them don't, which is this weird kind of thing, right? Where it's like we know there of a few species, and some of them do this crazy thing and some of them don't, and some of them have eyes and some of them don't, and some of them are purple and some of them are orange. It's this whole weird thing where we don't completely understand them. Like we kind of do, but we don't completely. They're really cool because we can't pinpoint exactly what they are and what they're for.
They're everything and nothing.
Right. Which is what I like. So think of the state of suspended animation like the mosquito that's caught in the amber in Jurassic Park.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So they exist and they are still alive, but they're in suspended animation. So they're just really slowed down.
Yeah.
Once they're released from that, they're still alive as if nothing happened.
Right.
They can be preserved for years and years in this manner. And then when they get a drop of water, they'll spring back up like nothing happened. Cool. Yeah, so they can stay in this little shape, which is basically they turn themselves into glass.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, so they basically turn themselves into glass. And when you get a drop of water on them or they get soaked in the water, they'll spring back up, they'll plump back up as if nothing had happened.
That's wild.
Isn't that really cool? That's super, see? Water bears are super cool. And you told me they weren't cute. They're cute.
I mean, them being cool and them being cute is two different conversations.
When that simple sugar crystallizes that they're in, so does the tardigrade. So it turns it into like a tiny little knight in a tiny little suit of armor. So it's all like a little...
So he's got like a little crust.
It's a little
like
crust.
A little sugary crust.
It's a little crust on him. And it's called vitrification, this process.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which means that it's the transformation of a substance into glass.
I know that term for some reason. I don't know why.
A non-crystalline amorphous solid. That's it. A non-crystalline amorphous solid. That's it. Scientists are trying to replicate the process to protect cellular tissues in people. So that's cool. Sperm cells and eggs.
Wow.
Yeah. So
well, hard boys.
Yeah. So scientists are trying to recreate this to like keep them indefinitely for eggs and sperm so that they'll never go bad. Yeah.
That's cool.
They're trying to use the same process that the water bears use in order to be able to like bring them decades from now back from what they can do now, which is kind of neat. They can also suspend their metabolism in a process which called cryptobiosis. Yeah. Right? There's a whole lot of big words that I didn't expect to come from water bears. Cryptobiosis.
Which means?
which I realize sounds like a made-up, like, supervillain power, like, or science fiction kind of power.
He's making people into puzzles. He has cryptobiosis.
Oh no. It brings each metabolic process within its body nearly to a halt. So it slows its metabolism down to the point of almost not functioning. So it will exist.
It's like a
barely
self-induced coma almost?
Kind of, yeah. Okay. So it barely exists. Barely. Like what a barely. Oh gosh. As if that isn't impressive enough, it can then dehydrate itself down to just about 3% of hydration in its body. Just like that's 3% really cool. Of its normal water content.
But then it doesn't, that's before it goes into the hard boy state.
So it's still good.
At 3%?
Yeah, it's still good at this point. This is called desiccation, which means it literally becomes a husk of its former self. It does. It's
not metaphorically.
Not metaphorically. It's literally just a little husk now. It's just a little dried up husk boy. It's a little husk boy. But just like chia pets. Just add water. It springs back to life. Did you guys ever have a chia pet as a kid?
No, I never had one.
Oh, the 80s.
I remember them though. I remember there was a Bob Ross one. Had a little fro.
Yeah, that was weird. It didn't work how you think it would. The seeds went down over his face, and it was a nightmare hellscape.
Little emo Bob Ross.
It was terrible. It was like a nightmare hellscape.
Did you have one?
I did. I think it was like a dog.
Doesn't surprise me.
I know. It was forever ago, though, and I don't remember it. But it was very cute at the time.
Just like water bears.
Just like water bears. Speaking of water bears, they often prefer to live in moss, dirt, and sand, which means there's always a danger, right? Which means there's always a danger of them getting dried out.
Sure.
There's always a danger of desiccation. Right? Fancy word. So if the sun starts drying out the soil, they can move further down.
Sure.
To try to get more liquid out of the soil, but there's a less chance they're going to get the food that they need, because the further down into the dirt they get, the less living organisms they get, because those are all going to be on the top.
Right.
So it's kind of they have to kind of chance it.
Yeah.
Between the two things, where they're going to be. There was a study done of, I think it was a Japanese study of these water bears that were frozen, or they were stuck in suspended animation, like purposefully, like in a lab for like 40 years or something, for like a long time.
Right.
And when they popped back up, they just started doing it.
Just boning.
Like they popped back up and they were just like, and then they just went at it.
Just went to pound
town. They just did it. Like they
get on your water.
And the scientists were like, yeah.
The
scientists were dirty. The scientists were like recording it, like uploading it.
No, without their consent.
Didn't get any tiny consent forms. Didn't get their tiny little signatures on there.
Their little John Hancock.
They don't have. I mean, sometimes some of them have lives, some of them don't. You gotta get their little paw prints just to prove it.
Yeah, you have to like, bite it and try to suck out the paper.
Didn't. They didn't.
All right.
They didn't. Oh, anyway. We're terrible. Scientists believe that some of them can be dried out from 5 to 10 years and still, quote, come back to life.
Okay.
Which is what they call it. Which is reanimation.
Sure.
Or a process that is known as revivification.
Oh, well, that's...
So reviving.
Just to
revive, yeah.
It's revivification.
So tardigrades have survived some kind of serious situations. They've survived a few minutes at 151 degrees Celsius, which is 304 degrees Fahrenheit.
Damn.
Yeah, so they've survived a few minutes there. They've survived 30 years at negative 20 degrees Celsius, which is negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, way below freezing, like miserable. They've survived a few days at negative 200 Celsius, which is negative 328 degrees Fahrenheit. And they've survived a few minutes at negative 272 Celsius, which is negative 458 degrees Fahrenheit.
How do you even get something that cold?
I don't know. Science did it. Science. I can't do. The more you know. I can't do science, but these people did science. And when they did the science,
That's what they said.
That's what they said. So in 1983, a team of Japanese scientists on a journey through Antarctica collected some tardigrades and put them in a deep freeze for 30 years. This is the one I was just telling you about, for 30 years.
Went back up and boned down.
Then they thawed them out in May 2014. Just went on like nothing happened. Started boning.
Dig it.
Didn't care. They just popped back up and they're like, yeah, all right, what's on? What's on at the movies?
It's on like the movie.
What's on at the movies right now? Let's go get some chips and some popcorn and some
Bone
Coke.
down.
And bone down. Let's go on dates. So tardigrades are into that. I don't know if you knew. It says here in my notes, they love to date.
Is that real?
No.
That would be awesome. If there was some sort of like courting process.
They're really romantic.
They just like move around each other.
Little dances.
Yeah.
Oh. They can tolerate pressure at least 6 times that of the deepest oceans.
God.
Right?
Tardigrades don't get the bins.
We can't even go there.
No.
We can literally physically can't even go there, and they can survive pressures that we have never even experienced.
How do we know that? Put them in a vacuum?
So we can put them in a vacuum, yeah. In fact, there was even an experiment that tossed a few water bears into the vacuum of space for 10 days, and a few of them survived the full 10 days.
I like the casual nature of the sentence where it's just like, just toss them into space.
Yeah, they just a handful of them. Just bloop, good luck. And then...
All right, it's Wednesday. Time to go get it.
And 10 days later. Oh, yeah, there's a few of them here. Yeah, what do you know? What if there's still tardigrades just floating around in space with their little space helmets and their little spacesuits? And they're just like humming to themselves.
Just doing the tiniest version of the movie Gravity.
Oh.
Just little bitty
Matt Damon's. Good.
Wait, no, Matt Damon was Martian.
No, this was George Clooney and Sandra Bullock.
Yeah. Those movies came around at the same time. The Martian's a good movie too.
It's all space movies. It's all the same.
Yeah,
you don't like space movies anyways.
The Martian was good, but it's just Space Castaway.
To give you a frame of reference for how long that is to a tardigrade that it is to a human, we could last maybe a couple minutes.
Damn.
And they lasted 10 days.
Good job.
So we without a spacesuit, without anything, could last maybe 2 minutes.
That's longer than I thought.
In the vacuum of space. I think that's long enough to suffocate. I think that's pretty much what it is. It's long enough to... Because there's no oxygen, right?
God, the idea of suffocating really scares me.
Yeah, in space, especially. You can't hear anything. Can't even hear yourself choking. Terrifying. This is what it looks like.
for those of you just listening to the audio, I did exactly what you imagined.
Yeah, he did exactly what you would think. So, radiation? Radiation.
Can we just... So, radiation?
So, radiation, am I right? Radiation... Some mediation. They don't care. They don't care about it. They don't care.
Geiger can't count me.
They can withstand 1,000 times more radiation than other animals. 1,000 times.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a big number.
Chernobyl, nothing with these water bears.
Okay, well... According to National Geographic, they've survived 5 mass extinctions over the course of around 500 million years.
Okay, not mass extinction of their species, because that would make no sense.
In general, yeah.
The big ones.
They've survived other species dying out.
Right, like the Ice Age.
For 500 million years.
It's a lot of time.
That's a lot of time. Like an incredible amount of time. That's crazy to me.
Unfathomable amount of time.
That's crazy to me. To think that these little tiny organisms have lived this long. That makes no sense. Now, obviously, because of their numbers, they're not on any other endangered lists. Like, they're not endangered. Right. We don't really know.
You're not going to see an ASPCA commercial for water bears.
In the arms of the angels. Yeah, and it's just like a little tardigrade just looking up. Just like a little sad little tardigrade looking up. Like, can't you please take home a tardigrade just today? Like, blah, 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 and it's got like a bunch of million like little claws just climbing on you as it does. It's like, please take them. They survive everything. We can't get rid of them.
We have an excess of...
We have too many tardigrades. Please take them. I'm Sarah McLachlan. Please take all these tardigrades home.
I'm Sarah McLachlan. I hate water bears.
I hate water bears. Please take them home.
I hate water bears. Sarah McLachlan, 2018.
Sarah McLachlan, 2018. If you're Sarah, I'm so sorry. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Sorry. Big fan. Sorry that this is happening. Commercials make me cry every time.
Sorry we put those words in your mouth.
Big
fan.
You
probably love tardigrades.
I rescue animals. Big fan of the...
Big fan of the message. Wait, what?
Hates them.
No.
Get him. Sue him.
Sarah, please. Sarah McLachlan.
Sarah McLachlan. McLaughlin, please.
Miss McLaughlin.
Miss McLaughlin. So, why should we care about tardigrades?
Because they live.
What if I just said, I don't know.
End of episode.
And we ended the podcast here. What if that's how it happened? So, they've evolved a unique arsenal of strategies to cope with stressful conditions, which is why they're interesting to us.
Yeah.
Including a protein that protects its DNA from radiation damage. So that's why they can last so long with radiation, because there's a certain protein in their body that's evolved to protect them from that damage.
Yeah.
So what could that be used for? Ba-na-na. We could use that in radiation for cancers or, chemotherapy, that kind of stuff. Like we could use that in pretty much anything. Like X-rays have radiation, like a bunch of different stuff that we could use in human bodies to protect them from radiation.
I just want to point something out really quick. Lydia is not lying. Her note literally says, "Why should we care?"
It does.
This is scripted out in a way that I did not expect.
Yeah, I have them in sections of
you do
why they're cute, why they do the things they do, and why should we care about them.
Sure.
I think it's important to point out.
No, that's good.
Why should we care
than
about
I expected.
So there's some small evidence that inserting a tardigrade protein into human cells can help protect the human cells from radiation.
Cool.
Right?
Useful.
So you can kind of combine that and kind of use that power to our advantage of these creatures that can't really be killed due to radiation and can survive these crazy amounts of radiation, whereas we, as simple little humans, cannot. Yeah, weak little humans cannot. There's some very new information, and the research being done is kind of new, and it's happening every single day. Like, it's still happening.
By the time you hear this, it may be outdated.
It may be outdated by the time you hear this.
Water bears don't exist. Sorry.
They're like, nah, sorry, we accidentally killed them all. But scientists would like to be able to capitalize on the water bear's ability to survive nearly anything in that glassy, like, ton state.
Yeah.
If we could find a way to survive in that way that water bears can, I mean, like, think of how we think of cryogenically freezing people now as being a possible way to kind of put people in stasis until, 10, 15, 20, 50 years down the road when we have some kind of way to solve this disease, this life-threatening disease that they have, this debilitating disease. Think about if we were able to take the ability that the water bears have of just, like, turning into this, like, shell state, and all they would need was some water to bring them back. Like, we have that in excess.
That's
like,
awesome.
That's the easiest way to go about it, and you could do that with multiple people multiple times, which would be great.
Yeah.
If we could find a way to utilize their ability to freeze in time, could we find a way to outlive Mother Nature?
Whoa.
So could we find? Because
I
got deep.
Expanded scope way quickly.
It got a little deep, right?
Yeah.
Because the water bear tends to be like this organism that they, like, many scientists and many educational papers and research studies and stuff like that say that they'll outlive us because they just they do their own thing.
That's what they do.
They exist. That's what they do. They live anywhere they want. They live everywhere they want. And at any given point, they're probably surrounding you. And they're just kind of doing their own thing. They don't hurt or they don't hinder or harm. They don't really benefit. They just exist.
Right.
Like, they just do their own thing. But the fact that they've lived as long as they have and that they're able to exist in such harsh conditions, like, that's super interesting.
Yeah, no, it really is.
And that they've done it for, however many billions of years that they've been able to survive. Like, that's kind of wild.
That is wild.
That's kind of crazy. So, would we be able to find a way to outlive Mother Nature, or would it turn us into terrifying eight-legged beasts with adorably squishy faces? And a hunger for algae.
That's okay. There's a lot of
with
that.
With a little, like, stylus. The world may never know. Depends.
The diaper.
We don't know. Oh. You made it ew. In conclusion, water bears are adorable.
Okay,
and
debatable.
They're super interesting.
That's not debatable.
They're super cool.
That was really cool.
They're really neat little creatures that I didn't even know what they were or what they did or why they were so interesting. But we're finding out new species of them pretty much every day. Like,
that's so cool.
They're kind of everywhere. They exist in places that humans have never been, and they exist in places that humans can't. And that is super, super cool to me.
Yeah,
to think
that's
that
really cool.
There's some kind of organism that's existing in space for 10 days.
Right.
When we last 2 minutes. That's
right.
wild. But I think that's really neat.
It was. I thoroughly enjoyed learning about something that's not murder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
sort of the opposite of murder.
Yeah, they live forever. Yeah, so that's kind of
sort of the opposite of murder.
I, for one, welcome our water bear overlords. So.
Could you imagine just a giant water bear?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you were way too happy about that.
I would have one as a pet. Are you kidding me?
No, I'm saying like a giant one.
Oh, like a mean one.
Like Godzilla-sized water bear.
Oh, why?
Because, I don't know, they live forever. They can do whatever they want.
They would punch a hole right through you with their silent.
Oh. Now we're talking about murder again.
Oh, now
Transition out. Liddy, where can people find you?
People can find me at twitch.tv/teamliddy. Where do they find you?
Twitch.tv/stormstreams. We're also on Twitter.
We are on Twitter. Team Liddy.
Stormstreams. We're pretty consistent. Also on Instagram. Team Liddy.
Yeah. Stormstreams. You can usually find us playing video games and kind of just being awesome.
Yeah. Generally.
Great. Oh man, someone's gonna watch this and they're gonna come to our stream as we're streaming. It's gonna be us flipping a motorcycle in PUBG and dying instantly.
So I heard you guys were awesome.
Boom, explosion.
Yeah, well, awesome means different things to different people.
Hey, water bears are awesome.
They are.
I want to be like a water bear when I grow up.
Okay.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Click carefully.
Oh.
Yeah.
A variant.
What was it normally?
Watch where you click.
Watch where you click. I don't remember. I remember last time I said don't get murdered and you said it was a bad one.
Again, I don't think that's totally right for the show.
I think that's perfectly fine to say don't get murdered.
Just at the end of a talk about Kendrick Lamar and it's like don't get murdered. It's like, well, where did that one come from?
Well, we didn't say that at the end of that one.
It made sense with Jack the Ripper.
What did we say at the end of the Kendrick Lamar one?
Watch where you click.
Okay, well, until next time, watch where you click. And there's water bears all around you right now. No. They're on you right now. They're probably not. They live in moss and stuff. Don't worry. Don't be scared. They're probably pretty cool, right? They're probably pretty cool. Yeah. They're on me. The end.